And have you also been using a Joomla mailer? I'm just trying to feel kind of how much you already know and whether I should keep it simple or a bit more into details. Who wants to keep it simple? Raise your hand. Okay, great. Only 2, so we'll make it difficult. All right. So we're going to be talking about 5 things today. I'll introduce us and Joomla mailer to you guys, and then we're going to cover the 3 major points that the Joomla mailer is about. How you manage your subscribers, how you can create your email campaigns, what else you can do during that process, and what third-party integrations we have integrated with. And then we'll talk about a couple of things that we have thought up about the future. All right, we're a German company. At the moment we're expanding. We're almost 9 people. We currently live in Mallorca and work from there. We have a pretty international team. A couple guys in the States, 1 in Australia, and then only one of us is German. We've got a Bulgarian, Daniel, in the back here with us. And so it's great to be on such an international team. What we do is mostly custom development client projects, and a bit less than half of our time goes to Joomla extensions development. And obviously it's all involving project management. So all right, why MailChimp? Oh, how do I get rid of that? Okay, why MailChimp? Of all the different email service providers, they have a very open source, community friendly plan, in our opinion. Being able to manage 2,000 subscribers and 12,000 emails per month for free pretty much ensures you that you're going to be getting your business off the ground before you're actually going to start paying any money for using their infrastructure. And the advantage with their payment plan is also that you have pay-as-you-go and pay monthly options so that you can retain full control over your costs. But I guess since all you guys, or most of you, are using it, you already know that. So we'll move on. So Joomla mailer. It's a feature-rich integration with the MailChimp API. We know that now. And we wanted to take it to the point that it can actually replace completely the MailChimp interface and that you can manage everything from your back end. Let me tell you a little story about that first. About 1.5 years ago, we needed a newsletter system, and we were looking around and came across Campaign Monitor. You might know Joomla, the previous version to Joomla mailer before we split one from the other. And that was pretty much also the inspiration, I guess, for MailChimp to get in touch with us to port it to their API. And this is how Joomla mailer came about. The highlights are adding contents to your newsletters by just checking checkboxes, and that will automatically add it to your newsletters. Importing your Joomla site users has probably never been easier into MailChimp. And you have a slick template editor with which you can edit the placeholders where you want your contents to appear when you select them in the campaign creation process. And obviously third-party integrations, which are very big in Joomla. So we are starting to integrate more with very popular ones like K2 and Jom Social, but I'll get into this a little bit later. If I talk too fast or something, please tell me and I'll slow down. Basically, we're coming to the end of the intro, and a lot of you have probably already seen the screen. You just have a package. Joomla mailer consists of a couple of components. One is the registration component, which you don't even know exists. It's activated by the registration plugin and allows you to override your registration process. I'll get to that in a second. You enter your API key and you get to the dashboard where all the good things happen. By the way, if you have any questions, since we're not so many, you can raise your hand at any time, and I'll try to get to you. If it's a bit too elaborate, I'll just remember till the end. This is our dashboard. We have tried to simplify MailChimp a little bit to improve the user experience in Joomla as they're used to it. Also, in order to keep a familiar look and feel in general with the Joomla interface. So we didn't go crazy on the design, just kept it subtle but a bit nicer than the Joomla one. You can basically reach all the important things that you're doing in MailChimp while managing your newsletters and subscribers from the dashboard. You can view campaigns that you've already sent. You get a very quick overview of how they've performed. The most recent ones, same as if you've created a draft, you can access it from here and then send it off later on. Whoops. All right. Oh. Okay, so we'll get straight to subscriber management now. This is the first thing that you usually do when setting up your Joomla mailer extension. You try to decide how you're going to be registering your users to your lists. There's three different ways. One I've mentioned, it's the registration plugin, which overrides the registration process. So you get a checkbox on the registration page when a user clicks sign up or whatever you call it, and he can place a checkbox for the newsletter. Then we have the subscription module and what I've previously talked about, the import function. So let's look at these. Oh yeah, first and foremost, MailChimp gives you the ability to segment your user base based on interests and birth date, pretty much anything that you can think of. You can create a text field or drop down for multi-select box, and then assign values. For example, what's your favorite country? You know, if you have a sports site, what's your favorite sport? And that way when they sign up for your site, they can say, I'm particularly interested in soccer or basketball or golf. Our registration plugin will then override the registration page of Joomla with these options in addition to the newsletter checkbox. So they can choose this before registering to your site. A feature which apparently was used by a lot of users based on the feedback that we've gotten was the import site users. On the dashboard you have the little menu. Oh, have you guys been hearing me all this time? The top menu, it's a second item, it's called lists. You basically get just a listing of your lists, and when you click on one of the lists to add users, you get a really long list depending on how many you're showing of all your site users. You can filter them by groups, by their last visit, for example, in case you only want to import the users that have been on your site or have registered on your site for the past 2-3 months, so you keep your list pretty clean. And then you select the checkboxes of the users you want, or all, and hit the Add to MailChimp button. And that's it. You know, you have your list fully populated. Now you can also do this with Sugar CRM and Highrise at the same time. You'll just get 2 more buttons. You click them after another, and you populate your Sugar or Highrise accounts with the same users that you would your MailChimp accounts. Lists, I mean, sorry. Yes, please. MailChimp does have a policy against using such generic emails, but I'm actually not entirely sure if the API blocks them at the moment, but I'll let you know. After the presentation, I can tell you in detail. It does filter out the duplicates, for example. That's for sure. When somebody signs up on your site with a plugin, you know, when you import the site users, I think it might block it, but actually when somebody signs up, then it won't stop them. But this is something that we've let them know. So yeah, setting up the registration plugin, which I've just been talking about, even though I didn't have the slide up. It's extremely simple. You know, you just pick the list, you know, pick the fields that you want to display, and then the interest groups, and then whether you also want them to add them to Sugar CRM or Highrise. So this is basically the alternative to the import function, which most people use. And these things then display, these options display the different multi-select boxes or drop-downs or whatever you chose on the registration page. And it works with most templates, 99%. We've also added some little check if morph is installed, so it'll even work with morph. If you create additional profile fields in Joomla Social or in Community Builder, you can also link them up via the interest groups and have those that data that the new user enters also pass on to MailChimp. So you can get really into elaborate data mining with if you have Joomla Social on your site installed or Community Builder. So how's the workflow of the registration plugin? I've been told I should highlight this because it's neat. So basically the user fills it out, clicks the registration button, and he opts in for the newsletter, and then he receives the Joomla activation email, which we have transformed through our plugin to also opt him into the newsletter so that he doesn't get 2 emails and it's then redundant. Because at the end of the day, he did decide to join your site. He has to activate the account, and he opted in basically. So I think there'd be a bad user experience in that sense. Oh, and additionally, it tracks the IP when they click the link now in the activation email, so that MailChimp knows from what area they are, so that you can use features like geo-targeting or time warp, because you can also segment based on location. Yes, please. Yes, absolutely. That's a standard Joomla email, basically. I think it's done with language strings, isn't it, Kyle? Yeah, all right. And then last but not least, it's actually also one of our newest additions. It's the subscription module. It does exactly the same as the registration plugin. Has the same fields, except you can enter intro text and what will appear after they submitted their email. The only difference is that you can place several modules on your site anywhere. You just don't have to be registered for your site. And you can add users to different lists, which is particularly interesting for sites with a lot of different areas that need a lot of sub-segmentation. Everything clear? Yeah. Did you have a question by any chance? Mm-hmm. We never thought of that. But then again, why would you necessarily try to subscribe? You mean have them both? Sorry, you mean to have a user be added to multiple lists at the same time? Oh yeah, that's the list right there in the middle, which is called Joomla Mailer at the moment. So it's a drop down, so you can only add a user to one list, yeah. But yes, absolutely. Those are basically the interests for this particular list. When I took the screenshot, I didn't have any, but they'll appear there just like for your registration plugin. So you can only select one list for the subscriber box. Yes, because MailChimp generally doesn't encourage you to use too many lists anyway, because they also... We have a multilingual site where people can subscribe both the Dutch and the English newsletter. Well, you can absolutely do that with the interest groups, And theoretically, with a tiny little bit of hacking, you can even do it invisible, based on what Joomfish or site, because you can pass hidden values to interest groups. Just drop a post in our forum and Pete will help you out. So, the highlight of Joomla Mailer is probably the ease with which you can put together your newsletters. Here we can see the colors haven't changed quite yet, but anyway, we'll continue straight on. So, there's 3 steps to your first campaign. You first create your template or modify an existing one to match your corporate identity. After that, you create a newsletter draft, and then you send your newsletter campaign. I actually forgot to write down that you'll be watching your stats probably for a while. So, creating templates. It looks confusing in the first moment, but once you understand that you have to add certain placeholders so that you can pick the contents from your site and add them to your newsletter, it becomes more clear. We recommend that you actually edit your template the first time you start using it instead of just starting from scratch, because everything is already set up and all you need to do is just change some colors, your font, and upload a new header. Things are already all nicely lined up. One gimmick that we added was via the Color Lovers API, we're pulling some palettes based on some base color that you're choosing. I actually talked to one of the guys earlier, and they're going to help us out pull the template colors in so that they're pre-populated with your template colors, the fields, so it'll make it even easier to get started in the beginning. Every time you click one of those palettes, it'll reshuffle all the colors of your template so you can go crazy without having to pick any specific colors until you like a combination. I'm not sure. They have their own palettes, not the Color Lover ones. Now they have a pretty cool feature where they actually do pull out some colors from your site if you type in your... So creating drafts. If you recognize this is from the dashboard. That's also the easiest way to access it. And the actual process is 5 steps. And at the end, you can save and revise before you start sending this off. So the first tab are the main settings. You can pre-populate those from the configuration of Joomla Mailer, so you don't have to fill them out every time. The only thing you'll have to do is fill out the campaign name and the subject. Going to the next tab, which is the more interesting one, is the actual content. And this is what we particularly enjoyed when we first built it, because we wrote some updates on our blog about Joomla, and all we did was place a checkbox and just send out an email, and then everybody knew about it. Unfortunately, we didn't have too much time lately to do this because we've been busy with this. But what you do is you choose your template, and you have a WYSIWYG. You can, insert images, anything that you would do also on your site. The only thing you have to keep in mind that your email client won't, render the nicest HTML or CSS. And if you look below, the Joomla core and the K2 selection options look identical. You just place a checkbox with include, choose if you want the intro or the full text, if you want to read more button or not, and then you move on to the next tab. This is obviously only going to be functional if you have a sidebar in your template or have placed the placeholders at any place in your template. There's a lot of little features like table of contents, popular articles, whether you want K2 articles in it or not, your social credentials, and it only takes a click to add all of these things to your newsletter. And also what we use the sidebar for in particular, and this is why it was requested, is for people to put ads in their newsletters. And so all you do is just click the image button and upload them, add them. By the way, at any point in time, you can hit the preview button and see what it looks like, what you've done so far. On the next tab, if you've got your Google Analytics credentials set up on the parameters view, you can then flip it on, and all the stats from your newsletter will then also show up in Google Analytics. And the last step, this is something that kind of goes under on MailChimp's interface, which is the folders management. We thought it was pretty essential every time you create a campaign to also really assign it to a folder, unless you're sending only one every 3 months. That probably won't matter, but we wanted to get our users into the habit of categorizing their campaigns so that it's easier to pull out their stats later on and compare them. And at the end, if you hit the preview button, or at any point in time, you get a preview of what your newsletter will look like. Oh, actually, I apologize. On the right-hand side, next to the WYSIWYG, you have the merge tags, which are available, and that you can just enter by placing your cursor anywhere in the WYSIWYG and selecting one from the drop-down. All of them from all the lists will be displayed, but only those that will work with the list that you're sending to will actually appear in the newsletter. There was no other way to really let you choose which list you want to send to before you actually go to the send page. All right. Come on. So, sending your campaign. Has anybody ever had any trouble with this page while using it? Was it too complicated? Okay, Nacho. Okay, we'll talk later about that. So at the top, you choose your list. You can't really read it that well, but it's all you really do at the top. You always have your tracking stuff on, unless for some reason you don't want to track it. You can send a test campaign to up to 5 emails. I personally recommend doing that every time. We do, but you can also we can also alternatively schedule the campaign for 2 hours in the future, and then you can pause it and go into MailChimp and do all the inbox inspections and all the other tools that they let you analyze your newsletter with. Below the scheduling and sending, because not a lot of people do the segmentation always, we put it down in priority. You can, just like in MailChimp, you can add as many conditions as you want. You can turn it on and off. And it also actually does most of the segmentation options that MailChimp does. Also some social ones, social age, social networks. So you can, for example, send a Facebook promotion only to the members, to your members that are also on Facebook. Did anybody have any questions? Okay. This is a feature I particularly like a lot. It's time warp. If you're into that kind of stuff, like sending people a coupon for a particular thing, like a dinner, I don't know, then you can time it so that they receive it an hour before the dinner, or if you have some important business newsletters with products that you want people to receive in the morning at 9 a.m. when they reach the office to read it, then this time warp feature, you can turn it on, and basically based on the IP that the user subscribed with, he'll be assigned to a time zone, and then he will receive the email at, for example, 9 a.m. in his particular time zone. The only drawback is if you're kind of a last-minute person, then this probably won't be good for you, because you have to schedule it 24 hours ahead of time. So here's a couple of examples that I was talking about. If you don't want to get a lot of spam complaints, just exclude Hotmail. Those guys seem to be very eager always. Your social network, your member ratings. This is a good one to filter out people that just won't open your emails. MailChimp generally gives them a pretty good score. Do you have any particular questions about segmentation? Did you ever have any trouble? Anybody do any advanced segmentation? All right, good to know. Or maybe you will after the session. So autoresponders. This was at the very bottom of the send page. We didn't separate this like MailChimp does on their interface with different create buttons and everything, just to keep it all a bit simpler, because ultimately you're going through the same process, and instead of sending it, you just save it at the end with a couple options that specify when that particular campaign is sent out. we had a client recently. He's a gynecologist from Berlin, and he wanted to send some baby mails, which is basically a pregnant woman signs up with her estimated birth date to this baby mail, and then she gets every week, based on what week of her pregnancy she's in, information about that stage of pregnancy. For example, week 7, the little one is, I don't know, 7 inches big or something, and okay, sorry, I usually do centimeters. So the reports, after you've sent your campaign, you've segmented it nicely, and you have your clean list, and then you're usually excited to press the refresh button every 30 seconds to see how it develops, because in the first couple hours you'll see the most action if your newsletter goes out. And we've tried to put everything that we can get out of MailChimp onto an internal reports page, just in case you have a higher up that just likes managing all the stuff from the back end, or a client that you don't need to explain the entire MailChimp interface to, because mostly they'll be used to Joomla. At the top you have the pie chart with the opens and bounces and not opens, and this will look pretty familiar from the MailChimp interface. What we have done, we have reduced that huge world map and put it in this tiny little module at the top right, so you can still get those stats as well, but without so much wasted space. I think in December we added the comparison function. What you do is we've added checkboxes, and you can select as many or as little as you want, and then you pick the metric that interests you, and then you can compare over time how your campaigns have performed. And then analyze why things are happening that way. For example, in this case, at the third update notification that we sent out, our subscriber list had drastically increased, and that's why for some reason, or as predicted, the opening rate dropped and then start picking up a little bit. And that's basically what this chart tells you. How many of you guys know Analytics 360 from Crowd Favorite for WordPress? No? Good. That's an older plugin for MailChimp, from MailChimp for WordPress, that displays all the stats for you from Google Analytics in case you're tracking your campaigns. At the very top, you have your familiar line chart, and it shows the point where the newsletter has been sent. And then you can directly see how it affected your daily traffic at that point in time. There's still the lovely country map. This is basically just a port from Crowd Favorites plugin into the Joomla mailer interface. No. Okay, if you go on the reports page, sorry, let me start differently. So on the reports page, you have all those different metrics at the top, below the stats title. Some of them are linkable. For example, who clicked your links? If you click it, or how many users clicked your links, you get to another list which shows the links, and then you get to another list which shows the users which clicked a particular link and how many times. And if you click the user, you get a user profile which then summarizes all these things again. At the same time, it will also display some social credentials if he's entered them into his Jom's social profile, for example. Let's say he added his Twitter account name, then it will tell you this here, and his avatar from Twitter will be pulled in. Otherwise, his gravatar will be pulled in, and so forth. Here at the top, you can also see the member rating, but next to it is a hotness rating. It hasn't quite caught on very much because I have a feeling that people don't really drill down so far as to watching every user, but this basically tells you if somebody bought something in Ambra or AEC or Virtuemart, how active he is as a customer, as a paying customer. Any questions in regards to that? Does anybody use any of these systems with Joomla Mailer on their site? Okay. So the last part is the third-party integrations, last main part. A lot of people use K2. We do. You probably do too. So it was a natural thing to integrate with them first as a content component. Works same way, put a checkbox, move on. The community builder integration with Joomla Mailer works almost exactly like the Joomla Social one. It is activated via the registration plugin, and you can capture, just as I had mentioned earlier, any of the fields that you want from the registration, from the entire profile, matter of fact. Joomla Social, in addition to the registration plugin options, also can add contents from your community to your newsletters. The two things that you can add at the moment are profiles of special people. If you have some site members that you want to feature for some reason, if you're running a dating site or something like that, you can send out profiles just by placing checkboxes. And you see a multi-select box above it. With this, you can actually choose which of the profile information are going to be displayed in the newsletter. What we particularly like is the discussion starters. You can choose the first entry of a discussion in Joomla Social to be added to your newsletter, so to engage with your community. In Joomla Social, usually you have to be part of a group to receive any type of notification about your groups. But if you want to engage your audience and try to motivate people to join other groups that are of interest to them, you can see what kind of segmentation options you have based on the profiles that you've collected, and then send discussion starters by segment to particular groups of people. So next is Ambra subs and AEC. This was particularly interesting for us and a lot of the people that we've worked with, because most use subscription systems, especially in the Joomla world. You buy 6 months or 12-month subscriptions to get some extensions, and you can also add them to your newsletter if you want people to just straight up buy them. Have a button on there that takes you to the page where you can fill in your information and buy the subscription. Do you have a question by any chance? No? Okay. So, and this is our admin panel module. We obviously like admin praise a lot, so, and the concept of having the information that's important to you on the dashboard. And based on this concept, we came up with the admin panel module, from which you can directly create your campaign. If you like, you log in and you click create campaign, and you're straight on the interface that you need to be on. Or if you want to quickly check some stats from past newsletter, or stay updated on the latest activities from your just sent newsletter, you can check it here. But it also works with a standard template, of course, but it was actually the initial concept from the admin praise dashboard which inspired us to do this module. The future of Joomla Mailer. What we're working on right now is a content plugin system. We're going to try and make it as easy as possible for you guys to write your own plugins for your own extensions to integrate with the content creation process. What we want to do first is also add an Akiba subscriptions plugin to also add Akiba subscriptions at the same place that you would add AEC and Ambra. And we've had incredible amount of requests for Flexi content, so this is actually the one we're currently building. The next thing we're looking at is a synchronization plugin system. We realized that Sugar CRM and Highrise only cover a part of the systems that people use. And instead of us trying to integrate with all those systems out there, you'll be able to write your own little plugins. Come on. Oh, shit. Yeah, Ken, by the way, was the guy who presented this in Chicago. And a couple of us were there also, and apparently it was a pretty exciting time. I wish I could tell you more about how it went for them, but only Kyle of the guys and Melinda were there, of the people that I know here. Heard it was a fun time. So there's one more thing that I wanted to show you at the very end, if you guys still have a little bit of patience. And where's my browser? We've partnered up with Standing Cloud. I don't know how many of you guys have read anything about them on our site. What it is it's like a cloud service, pretty much, which lets you deploy your site or an app onto your favorite cloud, basically Amazon or Rackspace Cloud or GoGrid, Linode, and so on. What we like to use it for on our site is for you to just show internet, for you to come on, just test drive Joomla Mailer without having to install it on your site. What you do is you just click use it now. It starts a Joomla instance for you within 30 seconds. All you need is a MailChimp API key. And Joomla Mailer is pre-installed. You can play around with it for 50 minutes, I believe, and then it just shuts down. You can start it back up and, test drive it for as long as you want. And that's it from me. Thank you for coming. If you have questions, talk to me. Go ahead. Yes, I've actually been approached about that. Theoretically, you could use the MailChimp thing, but we'll be looking into it. It's surprising that actually here is where we've heard most about this. We've had, like, in 6 months, maybe one request of somebody signing up his VirtualMart users, and that's why we haven't really done that. That's right. They are added to your normal user database, though, aren't they? They're added to the normal user database, though, in VirtualMart, correct? Mm. I'm pretty sure once we're going to have the content plugin system up, it's going to be a lot easier to handle this. Not only the content inclusion, but also what other, little things you'll be able to do with the particular VirtualMart plugin. We're also looking at the Tienda plugin, talking to Raphael, maybe him building it. So there's definitely some movement in that direction, and we'll try to figure something out about the VirtualMart registration. There just hasn't been a lot of demand for some reason. All right. Neither have we. Yes? Excuse me? Yes, absolutely. That's the whole goal of it. So regardless if you have a client or, it'll be a lot easier than it is right now. Yes. You can, the autoresponder is great. You can really go crazy with that thing. as long as you collect some merge fields as dates, you can use it for events, notifications. Christopher, may I disclose? He sends out several newsletters automatically to the user, even if he doesn't add new content to a site right after they have signed up, so they get the feeling they're actually getting the newsletter they've signed up for, so to keep the list fresh, which is a great idea, by the way. Excuse me? Well, MailChimp completely manages that for you. When you go to the list manager, when you go to the list manager, you can click on a particular list and you look at your users, and they will be colored differently based on whether they've gone bad or need updated or not. Please. Actually, we've been looking into this already. There's a WordPress plugin that does that, transactional emails. MailChimp has set up an API overlay for Amazon's transactional email API, which they've just released recently. And the problem is that you can't add this functionality to Joomla without adding a core patch. What we're actually interested in is adding a core patch for this functionality, but actually allowing you to use a plugin system so that you could also write plugins for transactional emails for like Postmark app, for example, and not just the MailChimp one. Actually, only MailChimp really does that. You can't get any tracking over the Amazon API. But I guess we'll all have to be a bit patient until, if this ever gets committed. But I think it's in the interest of everybody to allow people that run Joomla sites to use all sorts of different, not being able to override Jmailer is really frustrating sometimes. Please. It does it automatically when you import them.
Let's say I put this on the website today, what happens to the existing Joomla users or registered users with the existing list? There's a lot of most
If they're users, if they're members on your site, all the people that are on the MailChimp list, this will also be displayed you'll basically see this. You won't overwrite or create duplicates. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Usually, the overall workflow of people is that the first time when they come across Joomla Mailer, they import their users and then just use the registration plugin. Go ahead.
Is there any syncing? So once the registered user checks the newsletter checkbox, and basically they're now also in MailChimp database, if they unsubscribe from MailChimp directly at the bottom, there's a subscribe link that goes straight to MailChimp. Does that status, the newsletter checkbox status, does that sync between
Nope. It won't remove the user or so from your site.
For example, the newsletter checkbox
Oh yes.
inside of Joomla?
You can, yeah, you can go into Joomla, and actually that's what I forgot to mention. Instead of using the unsubscribe link, you know, theoretically you could also give them the option to, or just place a link to their profile next to the unsubscribe link, and there they can literally change all the settings that they've set during registration. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I'm not even entirely sure if, I don't think we've ever had the case that somebody adds an interest group option in MailChimp and that to go backwards. It's more like, I can tell you certainly that if he saves his profile with, for example, a new favorite fruit, and this will get updated the moment he saves the profile in MailChimp. So you can manage his MailChimp profile, newsletter profile from his own Joomla profile. Sure. Same goes for Jump Social. You can change your settings on your Jump Social profile. Excuse me? If you want to run your inspections, your inbox inspections, or the doctor program that they have for your emails, and that's really the only time, I think. When they add cool new features, check them out. Well, unfortunately, there's Social Pro features because they pulled that information in from Rapleaf over their API. We can't actually pull in that data over their API because they don't have the rights to redistribute the data that they pull in from Rapleaf. So we don't actually have all the fancy options that they have and all the social stats. But you can pretty much recreate those if you collect them, you know, personally from the user during the registration. If they enter the Twitter credential or so, you will also pull out their cloud score and show you that in their profile. So you can see how influential some of this. Mm. Hmm. All right. You guys having a good time so far, Jab? Everybody seems a bit sleepy after yesterday. Was I? I've been up at 9 a.m. like you guys. So do you guys want to know anything else? I don't know what's going on with the internet. Excuse me? At the moment, it's not planned really. Go ahead. Nope. It will just take a while. Mm-hmm. New ones.
Yes, to import it into their system. And also they need the users to agree to drop it again. And whenever nature group if I decide to move there is then certainly I could have dropped a lot of users, at least about 50%. So people they don't like something anymore, or they forgot.
They will. Actually, it's the other way around. You can import your list. They'll just, approve you in retrospect. So you definitely can just go ahead and set everything up, and then eventually, they'll send you an email saying you're good to go or you're not. What you could do is to create a particularly clean list. Just add the users from the past 2 months. You can start off with that. Well, no, because MailChimp's complaints rate is pretty harsh to some extent sometimes. What you could do is you can clean your list with your old system. You send out another newsletter. You're explaining to your users that you're switching systems or something. You have a coupon and a new template. And you let them know, or you call them to action to resubscribe to your newsletter. This way, you just filter out the really interested ones. And you give them some segmentation options. Are they interested in Drupal, WordPress in particular, Magento, and they'll feel like they'll get much more targeted information that way. Mm-hmm. Yes, above 2,000 subscribers, there's fees for different increments. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I think at 50,000 might be around $200-something in costs. But this basically reduces the entire load on your server when you're sending out to 150,000 people. So you're saving your money, on your actual server or your cloud or traffic in general. And you're getting a lot of more features than you would with the PHP list or other systems like that. Of course. All right. Anything else? Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Have a good night. Oh, by the way, one last thing. My session tomorrow morning at 9, if any of you guys want to come, is going to have just a small part of MailChimp to it, but I'm going to be talking about a couple other things, which is the content uploader that we've built, where you can upload a spreadsheet and populate your site with it. Each row turns into an article, K2 support, all that stuff. That's the gist of the speech tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.